Meet Joe. He inherited a family farm with both surface and mineral rights to the land. Since he has complete control of those minerals, Joe decides to engage an oil and gas company to explore for oil and gas on his land. Joe leases his mineral interest to E&P, an oil and gas exploration and production company. In his lease, Joe retains a 20% royalty interest for all future oil and gas production on his property and receives a one-time cash lease bonus from E&P. Since Joe retained a cost-free royalty interest, he isn't expected to contribute money to the drilling and development costs associated with any of E&P's wells on the property. Because drilling oil and gas wells is risky and expensive, E&P sells working interest units to several investors, including Steve, to share in the risk and expense of drilling a well. As a working interest owner, Steve is responsible for his share of all drilling and operating expenses of E&P's wells. E&P, Steve, and the other investors will pay 100% of the drilling and production costs, but receive only 80% of the revenue, since Joe is entitled to a 20% royalty. Once production of the well begins, Steve decides to sell his working interest to another investor at a premium and retain an overriding royalty in the well. An overriding royalty entitles Steve to a percentage of his pre-existing working interest cost-free, but this only lasts for the life of the well. Once the well stops producing, Steve's overriding royalty will cease to exist. Windswept Royalties purchases royalties, mineral interests like Joe had before he leased to E&P, and overriding royalties like Steve had after he sold his working interest to another investor. On a case-by-case basis, Windswept Royalties will consider purchasing a working interest as well. Contact Windswept Royalties today to request a bid about your oil and gas interest, because smart investing requires intelligent planning.